Hello and welcome back to the Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live, where I'm trying to show you how I made the Nature's Harvest, card with the Nature's Harvest stamp set bundle. And I'm hoping my video doesn't look, there we go, that looks much more normal. I don't know for sure what happened on the last one. I got nothing. So apparently it just decided to go live the wrong way, even though it was showing the right way on my screen. But you know, all is good. So I am glad that y'all are here. Thank you to those who popped out there earlier and are now back again. I apologize. I try not to have technical troubles, but you know, some days it just goes better than others. So, all right, so I'm going to show you really quickly how I made a card with the Nature's Harvest stamp set bundle, as I said. So this is the card we're going to be making today. It's a fairly simple one, but I don't know, I just like the layering on it, and hopefully y'all will too. And I added a little touch of the I call it brushed adhesive dots. That's not what it is. It's the brushed metallic cardstock, just a little peek of that underneath the flower image to give it a little bit of extra shine, along with some rhinestones. So hey, thank you all again for hopping back in, Barbara and Rosie and Ginny and Danette. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you coming back and finding me again, because like I said, I don't know for sure. I got nothing on what happened. It's crazy. So oh, I love this bundle too, Marilyn. It's one of my favorite ones. You know, I do love all things fall anyway, and then this one's just got such pretty images in it, and I love the fonts, and anyway, love the dies. Perfect. So, all right, so this is the stamp set. Again, it's called Nature's Harvest. It's got some really pretty sentiments in it. It's got a really pretty coneflower. I know there are other names for it, but coneflower is the one that I can easily remember and say, but images in it. There's another floral image, and then kind of a, I don't know, splattery, grungy background image as well. So this is the stamp set, and it is bundled together in the Stampin' Up! Catalog with a set of dies that I absolutely love. And hello, Linda. Thanks for joining, and Elaine as well. I appreciate you being here. So there are several dies that cut out images here in the stamp set. So this one cuts the larger flower out, which we're going to be playing with that today. These cut out a couple of the sentiments. This one cuts out the stamped flower here. And then this, and this are all just accessory pieces that you can use sort of for layering when you're doing your die cutting. And again, it's a really good set of dies. I love it. Really good stamp set. I love it. So yes, everybody should have it. If you don't have it, you need to get it. So again, it's available in the current mini catalog from Stampin' Up! Hey, Julie, thanks for hopping on, and Carol as well. I appreciate you being here. So I did use for the background here this die from the Circles die, Layering Circles dies. It's the second largest of the regular circles in here, so that's what I used to cut out this little circle. Cut it out of the Harvest Meadow Designer Series paper. And then I used, of course, this is like my best loved, most used, whatever you want to call it, die set from Stampin' Up! It's the stitched rectangles. And I used the fourth largest one to cut out the very vanilla piece on the background. So those are the die sets that I used. And I also used the Timber 3D embossing folder. This is one of the new ones from the mini catalog. So again, if you don't have this one, it's a definite must get. It's a really, really, really pretty wood grain background, and you can use it either way on your cards, this way, this way. I used it vertically on my card for this one. One nice thing about it, if you're wanting to line things up straight, I don't know if you know this, but Stampin' Up! Puts a nice line along the edge of their embossing folders. And if you line your cardstock up with that, one edge of your cardstock, then you know that you're going to be embossing straight. So this is one of the new 3D embossing folders, so it gives a really good, lots of texture when you emboss with it. All right. Oh, just looking at that set, Jackie, you don't have it yet? You need to get it, definitely. So, and Linda, I love this Stampin' die set. It's just beautiful. So, hey, Karen, thanks for joining, and thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. One quick thing, we'll just do one for now. Don't forget, Stampin' Up! Has an awesome joining promotion going on right now. So, if you are not currently a demonstrator, you need to be, and get your own discount on the product. So you get a 20% discount once you join as a demonstrator. As a little added bonus during celebration, if you join as a demonstrator, Stampin' Up! Is going to let you pick from one of these 12 beautiful bundles. They're all ones from the new mini catalog. So you can get one of those for free with your starter kit. So you pay $99 plus tax. It ships for free, which is a 10% discount right there. And then you get to pick $125 worth of whatever merchandise you'd like to get. And you get a free bundle on top of that. So it's a really good deal. So let me know if you have questions about that. If you're interested in joining, we'd love to have you join our team. We've got a fun team. No pressure to sell. It's all about stamping and having a good time. So hey, Elise, thanks for joining. And Kay, I appreciate that. Welcome. Thanks for hopping in. And Lori as well. Okay, so let's get going on the card. I did some of the work ahead of time, pre-cut my card base. Again, this is a card base, or this card can go either with your book fold card, if that's your preferred. So you could have this be an 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 card base, or you can do it like I did and do the 4 1/4 by 11 and score it at 5.5. Same size card front. I just prefer the top fold cards, but that's my own personal preference. So this one will work with either one. I've got a piece of the Harvest Meadow Designer Series paper that I've got cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5, so it should cover the entire card front, and we are going to be using a little bit of the multi-purpose liquid glue to adhere the designer paper to the card front. And I did talk a little bit briefly about Celebration. If you don't know what that is, Stampin' Up! Gives us, for every $50 that you order during Celebration, which ends on September 30th, you get to pick a free item from their Celebration selection. So lots of good things to pick from, and so definitely gonna, if you have questions about it, need to know more information about it and how you can get some free goodies from Stampin' Up, let me know. I'll be happy to chat with you about it. My email is amy@stampwithamyk.com, and the details are on my blog as well, which is stampwithamyk.com, so I try to keep it simple. And I actually, before I stuck that together, was planning to do the heat embossing in case I messed it up, but I'm not going to mess it up. I'm not going to mess it up. So I intended to emboss the sentiment before I stuck it on the card, but I'm sure I won't screw it up because I never do. So I know y'all are laughing. Okay, so I have the thank you sentiment from the Harvest Meadow, or yes, Harvest, what is it? Nature's Harvest. I'm like, Harvest Meadow is the designer paper. Nature's Harvest stamp set. And I've got some Versamark ink, and we are going to stamp this in Versamark ink on the card front. And we are all going to hold our breath and hope that Amy does not mess this up, which she probably will. So I'm going to line this up straight, and I'm going to try. I think I have it fairly straight on the block, so I'm going to give it a whirl. It's done. So we're going to hope that it's straight. I'm sure it is, like I said, and hopefully I don't do it upside down or something crazy too. And then I've got copper embossing powder here from the Metallics embossing powders, and I have misplaced my spoon, so we'll just do it sort of the old-fashioned way, dunking it in, and whoop, only got part of the sentiment that time around. Oh, goodness. I'm just determined to make a total mess during this video, I think. Oh, boy. Here we go. Okay. It's on. Whew. And I think I even got it kind of straight. So that's a bonus. All right. Now let's try for the heat embossing. See if we can get 3 in a row right without messing anything up. So, whew, again, hold your breath. So, hey, Bree, thanks for hopping in. So, I'm going to use the Stampin' Up! Heat tool, which has got 2 settings on it. There's a level 1 setting, which is for drying. So, if you're doing something like watercoloring or something that has a lot of watery whatever to it and you want to dry things quickly, you can use the level 1 setting. The level 2 setting is for heat embossing, and that's what we're doing here. So, I'm just giving it a second to heat up while I am chattering away to you. And I'm hoping that I've got my sentiment on here nicely and that I don't make a mess when I heat emboss it here. All right, fingers crossed. Ooh, there it goes. It's starting to emboss. So you just want to heat it to the point where it gets shiny and smooth, because you can burn the embossing powders. Again, because I've done it before. Although, there we go. All right. Okay. Whew. Step 1, near catastrophe averted here, I think. I think we got it on here fairly straight. We got it to heat emboss, and I didn't smudge anything yet. So, so here we are. Whew. Okay. Now I can breathe a little bit easier. All right, so ahead of time, I did some die cutting and did a little bit of embossing. So this is a piece of very vanilla cardstock, and I have cut it with the 4th largest of the stitched rectangle dies. So it's just a basic die cut. And then to add a little bit of extra texture to it, I used the Timber 3D embossing folder, and I just lined it up here along the edge, right over here. I lined it up with the line, ran it through my die cutting machine, and that's it. So it's all die cut and embossed ahead of time, so that I didn't have an opportunity to mess that up. as I probably would have. So, all right, so I've got a little bit of crumb cake ink here and one of the Stampin' Up! Blending brushes. That's filthy and nasty and icky, but it still works just fine. So got that. I usually try to do a little brush on my grid paper before I go straight to my project, because sometimes you can end up with I don't know, kind of a glob of ink if you're a little bit careful with it. So I usually do just sort of a test. And again, I'm just rubbing it across the ink pad, doing a little quick test over here off my project, and then going to go ahead and apply a little bit of ink around the edges. What my thought was in doing this is I wanted it to sort of accent the embossed area a little bit so that you'd be able to see the embossing a little bit better on it. But I didn't want to have it be a full crumb cake panel because I thought that was going to be too dark on it. So that's why I went with the Very Vanilla and just added a little bit of the crumb cake ink to it, because I thought that added a little extra dimension to it and a little extra pretty. I don't know, is a little extra pretty a thing? I don't know. It is in my world. So just doing adding a little bit of ink with the blending brush, and it's super, super easy to do this. If you don't have a set of blending brushes, you need to get a set of blending brushes. Actually, probably just pick up 2 while you're at it, because I'm finding that 2 sets of the blending brushes seem to be a good number. Then I've got enough, if I'm doing a project that requires more than 1 color, I've got enough brushes to do that. But you definitely don't need to get a blending brush for every single one of your inks. You can rinse them out with just plain water and let them dry, and then use them again over and over and over again. So there's really no need to have one in every single color, unless you really want to. I mean, I'd never tell you not to if you really wanted them, but you definitely don't need them. So, all right, I'm going to use a little bit of Stampin' Seal, and we are going to adhere that to the card front, maybe, with my Stampin' Seal. There we go. And again, I just sort of eyeballed it and lined it up on my grid paper and tried to get it fairly centered, side to side, top to bottom. I wanted it centered between the sentiment and the top of the card. So that was what I was aiming for. So we're going to give it a try again and see if I can get it. I think we've got that fairly well lined up. So that's it. Super simple for that. So I love the brushes too. They're really soft and they work wonderfully. So everybody should have, like I said, at least 1 set, if not 2. And this is another piece of the Harvest Meadow Designer Series paper, and I've cut it out with the second largest of the layering circles dies. So this one is the one that I use. So it's the second largest of the regular circles, not the scalloped ones, obviously. And we're just going to use a little bit of Stampin' Seal to adhere this to the card front. And I don't need to be too particular or careful about how or where I put the adhesive on it, because it's just going to be stuck down here and nobody's going to see how I did it. So just taking that and making sure that I have it adhered over here as well as here. So that's it for that part of it. Then I did a little bit of die cutting ahead of time, again, just because it's boring to watch me die cut over and over again. But this is from the Brushed Metallic cardstocks, and this is the darkest one. I don't know for sure which color it is. And people ask me, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know which color is which. So I feel like that one's the bronze color, maybe, is what it's called. I don't know. It looks kind of coppery to me, so that's why I usually mix and match it with copper, because I like the way it looks. Now I'm just using a tiny little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue to stick this down, because I tend to make a mess when I'm gluing with liquid glue. So I just put a couple little dabs in the center to hold it down. And the reason that I did that was because I'm going to be putting this over the top of it, and I'm going to adhere it down with Stampin' Dimensionals, so the flowers will actually hold the stems down pretty well. So I didn't worry about adding tons of glue and ended up with a big gluey mess with it. I just wanted to try to make sure that it was stuck down well enough that I didn't have it moving all over the place while I was working with the rest of the card. All right, so I'm going to hold that for just a second. All right, and it seems to be stuck down. Is that where maybe it's stuck down. There we go. I wanted to move it down just a hair, and thank goodness the glue hadn't held just yet. So I was still able to move it down just a little bit. I don't want it poking off the top of the cardstock, that's all, when I fold it in half. All right, next up, I have got some Very Vanilla cardstock, and we are going to stamp the coneflower image from the Nature's Harvest stamp set. And I've got Early Espresso ink, and I'm just going to ink up the image, hopefully pretty well here. And stamp it down here again on, I guess it doesn't really matter how I stamp it, on a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock. All right, looks like we got a pretty good image. So I'm going to close up my ink before I stick my fingers in it. If you're concerned about your die shifting before you do all of your coloring on everything, you can certainly die cut it first, which, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and color it and we'll risk it. and hopefully I won't end up with a die cutting mess. But all right, so we've got soft succulent, and I'm using the light of the soft succulent blends, and we're just going to color. And I'm not even coloring very nicely. Again, just kind of getting color on the stems. And I'm using the bullet end of the marker just because it's a little bit easier when you're coloring in these smaller places. At least it's easier for me. I know everyone kind of has their own preferred way to color with them, but I find that if I'm in a skinny little space where I worry about going out of the lines, the bullet tip works better for me. So coloring in the stems for me is definitely easier with the bullet tip. The leaves, where they're a little bit wider, you can flip to the brush end if you prefer, or you can color them with the bullet end as well. It just depends kind of on which one you like to use. But I'm just going to use the brush end on the leaves and hopefully stay inside the lines. The one nice thing about this image is that it is actually somewhat shaded already with the way that the stamp is designed, so you don't have to do a ton of shading with it unless you really want to. So I'm not really excellent at all the coloring and the shading and knowing exactly where to put all the darks and the lights and whatever, so I tend to just put the color on and kind of let the stamp do the work for me, just because I'm not really excellent at coloring. I try to stay in the lines, and that's sort of my main thing with coloring. I am going to go back in and add just a little bit of extra ink here in some of the areas where I think it should be a little bit darker. So again, just going up right underneath the flowers, because I assume there would be a shadow there, and then kind of here on the leaves where there is a little bit of the veining and a little bit of where I think there would be a shadow on them. And that's the one nice thing about the blends, is that you can layer on, you can use the same color and layer on additional layers of ink, and it gets lighter and darker depending on what you like. Hey, Noka, I'm glad you're here. And nope, you didn't miss it. We're still here. We're still playing and coloring. So, and then I have got the dark So Saffron Stampin' Blends marker, and that's what I'm going to use to color in the flower centers. The dark So Saffron to me is about as close as you can get to Bumblebee. We don't have a Bumblebee marker, but this one I think is pretty close, especially if you put on a layer or two of it. That seems like it gets to be a pretty close match to the Bumblebee in the cards or in the designer series paper. So I'm just going to do that, just put a little bit of extra ink on it, and I think we will call that good. I actually didn't color the flower petals at all, because in my mind this was a white and yellow flower, or vanilla and yellow, I guess I should say. So that is why I didn't add any color to the leaves. Again, I was going with a little more of a neutral look with this one. So let me grab my dies here, and again, these are the Harvest dies, and they are bundled together with the Nature's Harvest stamp set, and this die fits perfectly over this flower image, so I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine, which is right over here to my right. It's off screen and off the table, so that hopefully I don't wiggle the camera too much when I'm die cutting, so I will be back in 1 second. Well, thanks, Rosie, I appreciate that, and Corinne as well. So hopefully y'all are enjoying your Tuesday. We're having a good one here, some nice weather, and one of the kids is back in school, the other one is still hanging at home. School doesn't start for her till next week. Oh, you like it uncolored? It's such a pretty image. You don't even have to color it, so you can do what you want with it. That's the one nice thing. So I like a little bit of color on it, but it's nice not to have to feel like you have to color the whole image and shade it and all that. It's nice to be able to just kind of have the image do the work. So that's it. All right, we are going to go ahead and adhere this to the card front with some of the Stampin' Dimensionals. All grandkids started yesterday. Yep. So it depends, because I know I have nieces and nephews that have been back in school for quite a while. Some of my friends in Georgia, their kids have been back in school for quite a while. But up here, they tend to start a little later, and actually people were shocked that my younger daughter was already in school, and I'm like, yeah, well, I don't know, I don't make the school schedule, I just send her when they tell me she's supposed to go. So they, I guess normally they don't start up in our area until after the Labor Day holiday, normally, but they started early, so that's all right. So All right, again, just sticking Stampin' Dimensionals kind of in the larger areas here, and tried to cover the whole thing because, again, I want it to help hold down the die cut that I've got just put on with a tiny little bit of glue here. And I'm going to layer the two together. And I think we'll kind of go with it like that, so that we've got some of it over the yellow, some of it over the other die cut, and some of it over the plain. So, all right, next up we have got some Champagne Rhinestone Basic Jewels, which these are really pretty with all of the different metallics that we have, all the different metallic papers. I love using these Champagne Rhinestones. They're perfect for fall. Good colors. Again, they kind of match, I don't know, to me they match the coppers. And I'm sure that that's, I'm sure that that's probably not how I'm supposed to mix and match the metallics, but I like doing it. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and call that good. That is the card front. So super, super simple. Just did a little bit of embossing, a little bit of inking with the blending brush, a little bit of coloring, a little bit of die cutting, and then my hold your breath heat embossing where I messed up and stuck it down before I got the embossing done. And we did it anyway. So, all right, on the inside of the card, I kept it pretty simple and just used the coneflower image again and a little early espresso ink. And I'm stamping on Very Vanilla cardstock. Going to try to get a good inky image here. And flip it over and then just stamp it sort of along the edge. Try to have the flowers follow the corner of the cardstock. And I think that's it. So one thing that I did find out is that the early espresso did take a moment to dry. When I had initially stamped this one, I immediately flipped this over and put the adhesive on the back and then flipped it back up, and there were smears of early espresso ink all over the place. So I'm going to set it over here for just a minute and bring in my cardstock here, and I think I'm going to put the adhesive on the card base instead of on the back of the cardstock for the moment. That's one nice thing about the kind of having a standard sized inside to my card is I pretty well know where I need to put the adhesive, and if it's not on perfectly, it's on the inside of the card, and as long as it's held in there, nobody's going to be able to tell whether it's adhered perfectly or not. So, all right, just going to stick that together, and then take the bone folder, close it up, and do a quick crease across the top. And that's it. We're all done for today. So, yes, thank you. I apologize. I hadn't seen that question, Rosie. So, yes, it is. All the designer paper in here is from the Harvest Meadow Designer Series paper pack. This is from the brushed metallic cardstock pack, and then this is just Very Vanilla. Both of these are die cut from Very Vanilla. So, thanks so much, Ingrid. I appreciate it. I hadn't seen you pop in here. So, hey, Mary, thanks for joining. Glad you were here, even though you're late. You know, if you're really dying to watch it, you can always catch the replay. I almost said refill, the replay. So, thanks again to everybody for joining today. I appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. I will plan to be live around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday on YouTube, and then back here again on Facebook Live around 2 o'clock Eastern Time next week, Tuesday. So until then, have a great week, and thanks for stopping by. Chat soon.